If you're an Indy 500 fan, but most importantly, if you're an A.J. Foyt fan, you want to come to the museum right now and see the greatest exhibit I've ever seen of a man's career in cars and memories. And what the Speedway's done here is pretty phenomenal. We've got all of A.J.'s winning cars. We've got cars that he ran in the front row and up front with. We've got a car that he was badly hurt in. We've got cars he started with. I don't know that you can ever have this duplicated because people don't drive the variety of cars that Foyt did back then. So what we'll do is we'll start over here with his very first car. 1958, he was 23 years old, and he got one of the great rides of all time. Al Dean and the Dean Van Line's car. Clint Bronner was his chief mechanic. This is what the old garages look like. Look how simple this is. An off the engine, Mr. Pruett. We got a radiator, a couple of brake lines. There's not a whole lot of things that you can really change on this, so it's a little bit more about manhood, I imagine, than anything else. And this is cool because they just replicated the way everything looked. So you got to remember, he's 23 years old. They didn't hire 23-year-old kids back then. Owners didn't trust him. He had to be almost 30 like Uncle Bobby was when he came here as a rookie. So then we got his very first IndyCar winner, 1961, his battle with Eddie Sachs. It was a copy of a Watson Roadster, and they got Floyd Travis to make his modifications. And Floyd's the one that helped Bill Vukovich win 2 races in a row and almost 4 Indy 500s in a row. So he was quite the mastermind. And George Bignotti was the chief mechanic, and they didn't want a Watson Roadster because that's, you know, we can do better than that. We'll do something different, even though everybody else in the field, just about everybody else in the field, had a Watson Roadster. So that was Foyt's first victory. 1964, he finally gets a real Watson Roadster. And him and Parnelli Jones buck the rear engine revolution and say, we're going to stick with our old dinosaurs here. We're not going to try rear engine cars yet. We don't think they're reliable enough. It came to pass that Jimmy Clark and Bobby Marshman both had trouble with theirs. Parnelli caught fire in the pits, and A.J. pretty much kicked everybody's butt the rest of the way in this car, which is really and truly it's still got the pox on the front of the nose there where you can see the dirt and everything chipped it away. It's the real Roadster, which is really, God knows how much this thing would be worth. Then we go to A.J.'s 1967 winner, which was a copy of a Lotus. It's called a Coyote, as all his cars were, but you know, you can just tell by kind of looking at the lines. But they did some modifications to it. I think he messed with some things that were, I think the fuel tank and some other things, and really helped it around. But he was playing second fiddle to Parnelli Jones most of the day, and then when Parnelli had his problems, Anthony Joseph Foyt drove around a last lap wreck and became a 3-time winner. And now we're going. This is you shooting the Foyt. Marshall shooting the Foyt engine. Look at this. Look at this thing, folks. A V8 Foyt. Ford really liked AJ, so it became a Foyt engine with his Howard Gilbert's help, and it made some horsepower, like 1,200 one year, I think, 11 or 1,200 horsepower with a little bit of pop in it. So think about that, 1,200 horsepower. Pretty nice. Then we go to the Coyote, which was Bob Riley and AJ, and who else knows? I think those are the 2 main factors in this car. This was the car he won his 4th Indianapolis 500 in, the first 4-time winner, and it just has some pretty cool lines. Here's the rear wing of the Coyote that he won his 4th Indy 500 in. It also serves as a dining room table if you're in the mood to eat. You can see how big it is. The struts are pretty. I mean, that was pretty high class in those days. It wasn't primitive like some of those old Formula One struts that went straight up in the air. But you can see this car had a lot of nice lines, and obviously Bob Riley's designed a lot of great cars through your sports cars and Indy cars, and I think this was his prized possession. And you can see right up here in the front, it's just got what a shape it's got. What a great contour. It's just, the whole thing looks great. And it looks so racy.
And Robin.
Yo, buddy.
And Robin, you're conveniently forgetting your favorite A.J. Foyt car of all time, Kenny Brack's Dallara.
There's the Dallara. We try not to look at that because it's a monstrosity compared to the rest of these. But Kenny Brack won in 1999. That's when AJ, I think a lot of people think AJ was driving, and he has 5 Indy 500 wins. But Brack did a hell of a job. And then here's the Parnelli. How great was this for irony? AJ jumped in this car at Ontario. It's Parnelli Jones didn't have a driver for his car, so they put AJ in it. And Parnelli, the Parnelli was the car that really put Danny Ungaius on the map. Really, really fast and sleek and cool. And I think AJ liked it. But it was kind of the car to have for 3 or 4 years. Then, that's all right. You're an editor. You want to add anything, brother? No? Then we go to the March, which was kind of a cool car. I think this is the one that he beat on the gearbox with the hammer, which I think everybody has a fond memory of that early in the race one year. But just look at how wide this car was with the way the side pods were. I mean, it's got a kind of a cool wing. It's different than anything we'd seen in a while. The way it kind of swooped back there, and you know me, I'm such an aerodynamicist. I have no idea why it looks like that. But
big ground effect tunnels beneath it too. So
big tunnels. But Marshall, why that rear wing? Look, see, that's got those.
I do.
Have struts. So why is that?
Reason it has struts instead of the center pole like you see over here on this hot rod is they got rid of that center pole, which got rid of drag, and used the essentially the end plates as the mounting, which gives it nice clean air to extract as air goes over the top wing there and also extracts air from the underwing. So super clean, super efficient.
Very good. Then we have the Lola that he made his comeback in after his horrible crash at Elkhart Lake. He qualified in the middle of the front row after not even being able to walk 6 months earlier in this devastating crash at Elkhart Lake, he had never seen this until a couple of weeks ago. He'd never seen what was left of the car, but the brakes failed, and he stuck it in an earth bank going about 180 miles an hour at Road America, and his rehabilitation was nothing short of amazing because he pushed himself so hard, and he said, I will walk to my car in the 1991 Indy 500, and he did after qualifying second. This is a 1965 A.J. Foyt Lotus because he finally caved in and said, I can't run my Roadster anymore. You notice the offset suspension in the front, as Marshall points out. The cool collectors in the back. I mean, this is one of the prettiest cars ever. 75 gallons of fuel around the driver. And A.J. Foyt won the pole with this car and got on the PA system. And he said, I figured I needed to bring this back to America, and got one of the great cheers in the history because he knocked Jimmy Clark off the pole. And Clark went down to congratulate him, which was really classy. But, I mean, you got to admit, that's one of the prettiest cars. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it, though. It's always cool. Although, the 1966, now they say this was a Coyote, which is exactly, it's a Lotus copy, but, you know, you can see I don't know what they did with the fuel, but they moved it from over there, didn't they? I mean,
yeah, she's a little swole, but you can see instead of having the big external tanks that look like they're bolted on the Lotus here on the right, it's actually just tapered bodywork around his shoulders. So here, they've actually just kind of made an entire fairing to go over the fuel tank. So it's a round, smooth shape instead of the kind of disjointed shape on the right.
So I don't know, there was just, he was in the first lap wreck here because he crashed on qualifying day, and he said, I'll never start in the back of the Indy 500 again, and he didn't, but that gave him a bad feeling. Now, this car right here is, Quinn Epperly was one of the great body men of all time, and, of course, Frank Curtis had a much success with Roadsters back in the Roadster era, along with A.J. Watson, who dominated, but A.J. never won a race in this car, and he said he hated this car because he just never got comfortable, and he said it almost made him want to quit after the month of May was over in 1960. Fortunately, he did not quit. And now this car was restored and is driven around the vintage races by our buddy Phil Riley, and it's just kind of I think it's a cool looking car. But the first time we saw it, when AJ was here a couple weeks ago, he goes, I said, why did you really hate that car? He said, you cannot believe how much I hated that car more than any car I ever raced on. I said, well, it looks pretty nice. Sorry you hated it.